Welcome back, everybody. In today's video, I'm giving you 4 wide receivers that I think are going too early in sleeper redraft leagues. This doesn't mean that I dislike the player. It just means that I don't like where they're going, and I don't think they're going to return their ADP value for you in their end-of-season finish. Watch to the end of this video, and you should have a pretty good idea why you should probably avoid these 4 wide receivers at their current ADP. The first wide receiver we're discussing today is Xavier Worthy of the Kansas City Chiefs. He's going off the board as a wide receiver 26. And I just don't think he's going to be able to return that value for us this season. So he's going pick 55 at the 507. So when we take a look at his target share from this past season, his 17.2% target share was 55th among wide receivers, and his target rate of 20.3% was 63rd. Now keep in mind, this was with Rashee Rice missing essentially all but 3 games because Rashee Rice only played 6% of that 4th game. I also just don't think there's any way that's going to go up. So with Rashee Rice, he's on track to play, as of now at least. I think he is a much better candidate for that short yardage role. If you take a look at the bottom left-hand portion of your screen, a tweet from Alfredo Brown, he also agrees that Xavier Worthy is being overdrafted. I do agree he struggled to be a consistent deep threat. We also saw that Mahomes, if you watched my film breakdowns, was missing him left and right on these deep targets, especially early on in the season. We did see him connect, in the Super Bowl, but overall, his targets were just not very accurate. Taking a look also at the tweet, though, when Rashee Rice got hurt, Worthy took over that role, so his slot percentage jumped to 40% and his ADOT shrunk. Once again, Rashee Rice is bigger. I think he's better after the catch, and I think he's more suited to take those hits over the middle of the field. Xavier Worthy is a really small guy. I think he's talented. I think he's in a great offense to scheme up targets for him. But I just really don't think the ADP here at the 507 is it. Taking a look at his success rates, his 60.2% success rate versus man was 20th percentile. That's just not very good. Now, his 64th percentile zone success rate at 80.1% is absolutely solid, but he's also just not very good against press coverage. 53.8% is 16th percentile, according to Matt Harmon. Now, I do think that he is going to be schemed to get free releases off the line of scrimmage, so I don't really worry so much about the press success rates. Andy Reid isn't going to isolate him as an X on the line of scrimmage, but I think his targets are just going to be less catchable than they were this past season. Like I said, when you watch the film breakdown, Mahomes was missing him left and right. Sure, another year of offseason, working together could definitely help him out, but I'm out at the ADP. Now, taking a look also at his fantasy points per route run, his 0.39 were 46th among wide receivers, and his fantasy points per target of 1.91 was 41st. And that kind of ties in with, I just don't think he's going to see a larger target share than he saw this season with the return of Rashee Rice. I think that they're going to try to run the ball. I think they're going to feed Rashee Rice in the short area of the field consistently. And I do think that you're going to get some big boom games from Xavier Worthy because he's an absolute speed demon, right? I just don't like that he's probably not going to see a lot more of a target volume. I think the targets are going to be harder to connect on. And I just, once again, think that this wide receiver 26 ADP is not it. The second wide receiver I think you should avoid at his current ADP is Cooper Kupp of the Seattle Seahawks. So he's going off the board as the 91st overall pick at the 807. Now, sure, you're not going to have to pay a ton for this guy, but when we take a look at his success rate versus man, according to Player Profiler, they had him at 29.7% for the season, which was 70th overall. But when you take a look at Matt Harmon's, even at 50.5% is only 3rd percentile in his database. Then you take a look at his success rate versus zone. His 76.2% is 30th percentile, and his success rate versus press of 41.4% was 3rd percentile. This guy dropped off a cliff. I understand that he was fed some schemed up touches, early on in the season when Puka Nacua was out with injury and they just didn't have anybody, but he really was not very good. Now, if you take a look at the tweet on the bottom left-hand portion of your screen, according to Fantasy Points data from Week 12 on, including the playoffs, Cooper Kupp's separation score was 51st among 69 wide receivers, and his route win rate was 44th overall. That is just absolutely abysmal, and yes, if you also take a look, Devontae Adams was incredible there. And I do agree, the Rams did some self-scouting. They did everything they could to try to trade him away, just get him off the team so that they could get somebody that's going to be more effective. Now, we also take a look at his health throughout his career, right? So he played 15 games in 2017, so he missed one. He played 8 games in 2018, missed half the season. played a fully healthy 2019 season, only played in 15 games in 2020, did play in 17 and 21 during that Triple Crown season, but then he's played 9, 12, and 12 games in subsequent seasons. This guy is just an injury waiting to happen. Even though you're getting him at the wide receiver 42, he's going to be behind JSN in the pecking order. And while I do think that he's way more slot only than he even used to be, and I do think that JSN is more so than in the past going to be outside, potentially even as an X for them, I just do not think that this guy is going to get enough target volume. I worry about Sam Darnold. That offensive line is nothing like the Vikings was. And overall, I am just 100% out on Cooper Kupp for the reasons mentioned. And I want to give a special shout out to my Patreon members. Thank you to Big Hunt, SP, Mage Jack, and Infamy MTG. If you would like to become a Patreon member, the link's going to be below in the comment section. There we're going to have weekly live streams where we go over, fantasy news, potential buy low candidates, sell high candidates, depending on the news. We're going to give you specific league-oriented roster construction with trade advice based on your specific league settings there. We're going to give you access to early videos. We're going to give you the ability to suggest videos as well. I made a private video for someone on Isaac Rendo, some of the pluses, minuses to his game, things to like, and specific price points to sell or buy for. You're also going to find that we are working on a model with predictive capability for running backs, quarterbacks, tight ends, and wide receivers based on a variety of specific metrics, minimums and maximums to be in an acceptable range for us in fantasy that will be predictive and lead us to being able to be more successful, we think, than the average person in determining which prospects based on these thresholds are likely to hit or unlikely to hit. And we're also going to be updating that each and every single year with the new prospects so that we can continuously have the best model possible. So once again, if you'd like to become a member, the link's going to be below in the comment section. Thanks. The third player I think you should avoid in sleeper redraft leagues this season is Nico Collins. So he's going off the board as a wide receiver 7 overall. Now, I think he is incredibly talented. He's going off the board 11th overall at the 111. But when you take a look at his fantasy finishes on the bottom left-hand portion of your screen, he's finished as the wide receiver 86, 77, but with CJ Stroud, the wide receiver 11, and then the wide receiver 23. You also see that he has never once in his 4-year career played an entire season. He's played 14, 10, 15, and 12 games. So while yes, his points per game is going to be fine, why are we taking him over the likes of Brian Thomas, who is just the wide receiver 4, Drake London, who is just the wide receiver 5, AJ Brown, Ladd McConkey, JSN, players that I would almost guarantee you finish the season higher than Nico Collins? Why are we taking Nico higher than his highest ever fantasy finish and over players that there's really no reason to project them to finish lower in their end of season rankings? Nico Collins is a very talented player, but taking him as the wide receiver 7 at the 111 when you could get Brian Thomas, London, AJ Brown, McConkey, and JSN, I think is just a bad idea, and I think you should probably avoid him at this ADP. The fourth and final player I think you should absolutely avoid at their ADP is Marvin Harrison Jr. He's going off the board as a wide receiver 17, pick 35 overall at the 311. He just finished as a wide receiver 3. While yes, I think he's a talented player, he was almost completely confined to being a vertical X in this offense, running a whole bunch of goes, fades, not running his bread and butter routes such as the dig route, the crosser, things that he excels at. He just was not asked to do, and they didn't draft an X. They didn't sign an X. He is probably going to be in this role again. He's a very talented player, but he's being used as poorly as he could possibly be used. Take a look at his target accuracy rating per player profiler. His 5.8 was 92nd among wide receivers. Why? Because he's receiving the most difficult targets imaginable and running the routes that he struggles the most to succeed in. When you take a look even at his target share, he had a 22.2% target share, which was 37th among wide receivers, with a 22.1% target rate, which was 50th. Yes, he's talented. Yes, he was the 4th overall pick, but he was not utilized like that guy. When you take a look furthermore at his target quality rating, his 4.78 was 66th among wide receivers, and his catchable target rate of 68.1% was 64th. These are just horrible numbers. And then you take a look at the little guy there in the middle there, Kyler Murray, the fantasy terrorist, if you were an owner of Marvin Harrison Jr. This guy struggles to go through all his progressions. He cannot see over the middle of the field. And he just does not get through his reads long enough to let them progress and let Marvin Harrison Jr. get open generally. He likes to dump the ball off to Trey McBride or run or even pass it to James Conner. Marvin Harrison Jr. is a supremely talented player who added a lot of weight in terms of specifically muscle and is a very talented player, but I just don't understand this ADP. He finished as a wide receiver 3 and was massively disappointing. He was used as poorly as possible. He still has Kyler Murray as his quarterback. I just don't understand. If you could tell me in the comment section, please let me know. I just think this is a terrible idea. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I just am completely out at this wide receiver 17 ADP at the 311. And so to conclude, 4 wide receivers that I think are just very poor values at their current ADP are Nico Collins, Cooper Kupp, Xavier Worthy, and Marvin Harrison Jr. Remember with Nico Collins, his highest ever fantasy finish was wide receiver 12 overall. You can get players like Ladd McConkey, Brian Thomas Jr., Drake London after him. Why are we drafting him as the wide receiver 7 when he's never played a fully healthy season and never been higher than the wide receiver 12? I just personally don't think that makes sense. With Cooper Kupp, remember, his success rates were in the gutter. The Rams did everything that they could to get rid of him. He's had a ton of trouble staying healthy, and I just don't think he's going to be force-fed targets in this offense. And then with Sam Darnold, remember, this offensive line is not the Vikings offensive line. It's the Seahawks offensive line. Yes, they invested in the first round in O-linemen. This is just not the move, guys. Then you take a look at Xavier Worthy, his wide receiver 26 overall ADP. Remember that his target share and target rate really weren't very good. The accuracy of his targets wasn't very good either. And he's not going to be most likely in that Rashee Rice short yardage role over the middle of the field. He's probably going to be more of your deep guy, and he just isn't a contested catch guy. Sure, he can separate with elite speed. He's probably not going to, be placed on the line of scrimmage in a stagnant location. He's going to be moved and schemed touches. So it's not as if he's not going to give you any value, but the targets he's most likely going to earn are going to be very difficult to corral and are probably going to lead to some big boom bust weeks. And just at wide receiver 26, I am out because I just do not see him getting a ton of targets, and they're going to be difficult to corral. Then you take a look at Marvin Harrison Jr. He's being drafted as a wide receiver 17 after finishing as a wide receiver 3. Now, I think he's talented once again, but he's being asked to be the vertical X in this offense, running vertically down the field on those nines, those fades. He's not running enough of those bread and butter routes, such as the dig route or the crossers, in which he excels. He has Kyler Murray, who was basically incapable of reading through all of his progressions. He likes to run, dump the ball off to McBride. It's just a bad idea. He wasn't really giving him accurate targets down the field either. I just think that, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. I'm out on Marvin Harrison Jr. at his current ADP, and I think basically all 4 of these wide receivers are just massive avoids. But where do you agree? Where do you disagree? Let me know below in the comment section. Who is your biggest avoid this season in redraft leagues? Let me know below in the comment section. With that being said, feel free to subscribe to my Patreon. I would really appreciate your support. I'm unable to monetize these videos because I do a lot of film breakdowns, which will once again be returning for the duration of the fantasy season week to week. Also, feel free to like and subscribe to the channel. I would really appreciate your support. Thank you, and have a good day.